Today we are going to discuss about how can we traverse and modify a DOM tree. We all know that what a DOM tree is. How can you represent an HTML element, its equivalent DOM tree. Here this DOM, that is Document Object Model, enables us to programmatically access an HTML document's elements, allowing us to modify its contents dynamically using JavaScript. That is, we can use JavaScript for dynamically modify an HTML elements, an HTML pages elements. So here we need to discuss about some of the DOM node properties and methods for traversing the DOM tree, modifying nodes and creating or deleting the content dynamically. So there are lots and lots of functions that will help us to modify and access the nodes of a DOM tree. Node means the elements of an HTML file. Here the first and foremost thing is we need to find that element by using a function get element by id. There are lots and lots of functions that we discussed the last class. By using get element by id, we need to find which is the target element of our HTML file. Then we can use some functions like node.insert before, then node.append child, then node.replace child, node.remove child. These are the functions which are available in DOM for modifying the nodes. Here the insert before method insert a node before a reference node as a child of a specified parent node. That is, we will be discussing the syntax of this function and how can we use that function. The next function is append child. This is a function that will append a node as the child of the current node. Then if you want to replace a node, you can use this function node.replace child. Then if you want to remove a node from the tree, you can use node.remove child function. We will be discussing these functions in detail. Then there are some other functions that we already discussed for changing or modifying the attribute of an HTML element. Here you can see one function set attribute. That method adds the specified attribute to an element and gives it the specified value. Its syntax is element.setAttribute. As the parameter, we need to provide the attribute name and its value. So if you execute this function, for example, I am executing current node.setAttribute class highlighted, that will change the class attribute of the current node to highlighted. So in this way, we can modify the attribute of a node. Then another function, that is get attribute, in order to return the value of the attribute with the specified name of an element. If you want to get an attribute value of a particular HTML element, you can use this function get attribute. Its syntax is the element dot get attribute of attribute name, that will return the attribute value corresponding to this name. So if you want to execute all these functions, first we need to find the element. For that, we can use get element by id. That will return the reference of this particular element. Then that reference dot get attribute can be called. Hope it is clear. Now we need to discuss about modeling a document. That is, how can you model a document to a DOM tree. Here the documents method, one of the documents methods is get elements by id. That is the simplest way to access a specified element in a page. If you want to access or if you want to modify a particular element in an HTML page, first thing is we need to find that. So if you want to find that, we can use the function get element by id of the id of the specified element. This method returns the objects called DOM nodes. Here we know that all the nodes in a document make up the page's DOM tree, which describes the relationships among elements. Here we are having an HTML file. All the elements in the HTML file are viewed as nodes in DOM. The collection of these nodes and their relationships is the DOM tree. Hope it is clear. Now, nodes are related to each other through child-parent relationships. There will be parent nodes and there will be child nodes and there will be siblings. An HTML5 element inside another element is said to be its child. The containing element is known as the parent. Hope it is clear. A node can have multiple children but only one parent. Nodes with the same parent node are referred to as siblings, like all the other trees. We'll be having siblings, parents and child relationships inside this particular DOM tree. Each and every nodes inside this DOM tree can be searched, can be modified and can be accessed by using DOM functions. Like already discussed, insert before, append node, remove child, like that. Now we need to discuss about how can you view a document's DOM. Here we take the case of Chrome. In Chrome, if you press Ctrl Shift I, then you can find the DOM equivalent of an HTML page. Then get the elements tab. After pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus I, you will be getting a window. There will be an elements tab. Then you can find the HTML elements, HTML documents DOM tree. The HTML, that tag will be the parent. HTML tag will be the parent because we know that an HTML page will always begin with an HTML tag. That is the root node. That is the root node. Parent of all the parents. That is the root node because it has no parent. Below the HTML code, we will be having head node, then one body node, head and body. Inside the head, you can find title, meta tags like that. Inside the body, all the elements we can see inside that body element like P, H1, H2, anything we can see inside the body tag. In this way, we will be organizing a DOM tree of a particular HTML file. Now we need to discuss about the code related to this particular tree traversal. How can we need to discuss about how can we insert something, how can we insert a node inside a tree, then how can you search, how can you change the attribute of a node. We need to discuss about that. Okay. Here today we are going to discuss about a code for tree traversal. It contains three parts. First one is a CSS file. Second one is a JavaScript file, JS file. Third one is our main HTML file. These are the three files that we need to discuss today. We know that CSS file is a file which will provide a particular styling to an HTML page. Here you can see the CSS file which contains lots and lots of styles for H1 and H3. Then there is a defined style for P paragraph. Then there is another style for UL, that is unordered list. Then there is an anchor tag style. Then a:hover. If you move your mouse pointer over the anchor tag, this style will get applied. Then we are creating two custom made tags. Here you can see .nav. We know that meaning of that dot. Dot stands for it is a custom made tag and we are creating a class for that particular style. Here our interest is this dot highlighted tag. This tag is, here we are using this particular style frequently in our HTML file. So you please listen that highlighted style. This is used for highlighting a particular word or a sentence or a particular element. We need to highlight a particular element. Here what we do is background color : yellow. That means we are creating or we are putting the background color of an element as yellow if you use this particular style to a particular element. Then there is another style for input. Then there is another style for paragraph inside the form. So this is the structure of our CSS file that we are using. Now we need to discuss about our HTML file. This is our HTML file. This is our HTML file. This is our master HTML file. Here we all know that an HTML file will start with an HTML tag. Then inside that, head and body you can find. Inside the head there will be lots and lots of other tags. Here you can see inside the head you can find one tag called link. This is for linking. Rel means a relation, linking to a style sheet. Its name is style.css that we already discussed. Then what I am doing is we are creating another JavaScript file. Its name is dom.javascript. JavaScript contains the functions which is related to DOM. And we are inserting that functions too in our HTML file. So that is what is happening inside this head tag. Then we need to discuss about the body tag. The body tag contains h1, h3, p, and you see that ID. The first h1 tag, its ID is big heading. That big heading is put inside the square bracket as its content also. So you please note that all that things inside the square bracket. You can see big heading, small heading, para 1, para 2, link, para 3, item 1. You can see all those things inside the square bracket. That things are actually the ID of the corresponding tag. Means the text inside the tag, you can find one square bracket. That square bracket contains the ID of the corresponding tag. Here you can see li ID item 1. Its ID is inside the square bracket. You can see item 1. So all those things inside the square bracket are the IDs of the corresponding tags. Then you can see on form inside that you can see lots and lots of input types. One input text is there. GBI is there. GBI is get by ID. Get by ID. GBI stands for get by ID. Then there is one input for insert before. Then there is another input for append child. Then replace current, remove current. All those things are there. So these input elements are for getting a particular element. Then for inserting a particular element to this HTML. For appending a node into this particular HTML. Then for replacing the current node from this DOM tree. Then remove a current node from this DOM tree. All these things are happening inside this particular portion of the code. So this portion contains the input elements. This input element is text and button. Text and button. Inside the text, we need to provide the ID of a particular element that needs to be modified. Then upon clicking that button, this particular functionality will be executed. That is the main flow of this particular program. So this is our HTML file. Then now we need to discuss about the JavaScript file, dom.js. We know that JavaScript codes are saved inside the file type .js. Okay, hope it is clear. So here we are having two global variables, current node and ID count. The ID count is set as 0. Then what we are doing is we are defining a function start. You can see that. Inside the start function, what we are doing is we are adding some events. Add event listener means here we are registering some events. Events, we all know that what is an event? Event is any user intervention. Like clicking, then keyboard typing, all those are the events. So the first statement, that is document.get element by ID of by ID button dot add event listener, means we are providing an event to the particular button by ID button. That is its ID. We are putting some events to this particular element, or we are mapping some particular event with the function inside the HTML page. Here in the parameter you can see click comma by ID. Here the first parameter is the event. Here the event is clicking. Then second parameter is the function. We will be discussing third parameter in detail in the next classes. So the first parameter is click. That means that is the event. Upon clicking that button, what will need to execute? That is the second parameter, by ID. By ID is the name of the function that needs to be executed upon clicking this particular button. Again, in the second line, we will be adding one action, one method to the insert button. Its method is insert. So upon clicking that insert button, insert function will get executed. Again, we are adding something to append button. Upon clicking append button, append node function will get executed. Then for replace button, it will execute replace current. Then remove button, it will execute remove current, like that. Hope it is clear. Okay. Now what we do is we will be initializing the current node as document.getElementById of big heading. Big heading is our current node. That is for just starting stage of our program. Then another thing is we are adding another add event listener. That is we are mapping load event with the start function. Window.add event listener load comma start. That means upon loading our window, the start function will get executed. Start function, we know that start function is what? For registering all those events. So upon loading the page, this particular registration will be happened. Okay, hope it is clear. Now we need to discuss about the function by ID. This by ID will be executed upon clicking what? This by ID button. By ID button. Here you can see by ID. That by ID is a function. Upon clicking this by ID button, that function will get executed. Inside the by ID button, what we do is we will be getting the element GBI. GBI means get element by ID. In that HTML file, we discussed about that. That is a text input element, text element. So upon clicking this, upon executing this particular function, we will be getting the value of that GBI text box. Then we are putting the element of that particular ID as the target. So here get element by ID GBI dot value, we will be getting that ID inside the variable var. Then using that ID, we are trying to get, or we are searching the reference of its particular element. Then we will be switching to that particular element. In switching, for switching we are using the function switch to. So we will be discussing the next function is switch to. In switch to function, you can see switch to function. We all know that some function used for switching. So we need to discuss about what is the meaning of that switching. Okay, so here you can see current node dot set attribute class comma one null character, or the nil character, null string. Okay, here what we do is here we are removing the old highlighting. That is in the CSS file we discussed about that highlighting style. So there is a style for highlighting the selected element. That is, if you select a particular element, it will get highlighted. So if you want to remove that highlighting, you need to call this switch to function. Okay, here what we do is then current equal to new node, then current node dot set attribute class comma highlighted, then document dot get element by ID of GBI dot value equal to current node dot get attribute of ID. That means here we are removing the highlighting of the old node and we are switching that old node to our new node. then new node will get highlighted and its value will be inside. Its value will be displayed inside the GBA text box. This function is made for that thing. Hope it is clear. That is, it will switch the old element to new highlighted element. Hope it is clear. Now we need to discuss about another function, that is here by ID. We already discussed about that. Then we need to discuss about insert function. Here you can see the insert function. Its syntax is, you please note that current node dot parent node dot insert before of new node comma current node. This function insert a node before a reference node. Here the reference node is current node. So the new node will be inserted before the current node as a child of the specified parent node. So in this function we need to specify the parent node, then reference node and our new node. Here the parent node is current node dot parent node, that is our parent node. Then new node is our new node, then current node is our reference node. These three nodes should be mentioned inside this function. So in this way we can insert a new node. Hope it is clear. Then another thing is append node. Here append node is for what? Append node is for appending a node as the child of the current node. As the child of the current node, it will append the new node as the child of the current node. For that, here we are inside this append node, we are calling the function. Here you can see current node dot append child. That is the exact function. That append node is a user defined function. Inside that append node, we are calling current node dot append child. Append child function will append a node as the child of the current node. Hope it is clear. Okay. Now next function, that is replace current node. Replace current function, that is a user defined function. This replace current function, what will do? It will replace the current node with the new node with the it will replace the current node with the new node. It will replace the current node with the new node. You please please make it clear. It will replace the current node with the new node. Its syntax is current node dot parent node dot replace child of new node comma current node. Here also, like insert function, insert before function, we need to provide the reference of the parent node, reference of the new node and reference of the current node. So how can you get the parent node? Current node dot parent node. We will be getting parent node. After that you can call replace child. Here we are replacing a child. Which child is replaced? Here the current node is replaced with which node? New node. So current node will get replaced with the new node. This function is for doing that. Okay. Then next function is if you want to remove a particular element. If you want to remove a particular element, inside this remove function, you can see one function called current node dot remove child. It is simple. Current node dot remove child. If you want to remove a child, you need to find its parent node. Then you need to call remove child. Okay, current node dot remove child of all node. It will remove this all node from the current node's children list. Hope it is clear. And if it is document body, we are not doing something because body is our parent node. Body is a great parent node. You can say that great grandfather, like that. So if you want to remove a body, this function won't allow that. If you remove body, all our documents will get collapsed. That's why we are putting this particular condition, current node dot parent node equal to document dot body. We are not gonna remove that body tag. Hope it is clear. Then we need to find the parent node. If you want to find the parent node of a particular node, you can see this target equal to current node dot parent node. If target not equal to document.body, then we will be switching this to the target. Here the target is current node dot parent node. So if you want to get the parent node, if you want to get the parent node of a particular node, that node dot parent node, we will be getting the parent of that particular node. Hope it is clear. Okay. Now if you want to create a new node, here you can see one function called create element. In this code, for the sake of simplicity, we will be creating a paragraph element. Create element of P. Here we are creating a parent element for the sake of simplicity. For every time we will be creating a parent node. If you want to create a heading, you can do that. Then you need to modify this function. You need to add one parameter, the element tag. By using this, you can create your own tags. Here we are creating the only paragraph tag. Okay, paragraph tag. Then we will be appending that paragraph, appending that node. Then upon creating this, we will be adding the ID count. Now the ID count is set as 0. Then upon adding the new tags, we will be adding the count, ID count. Then we will be putting the node ID as that ID. We will be putting the node ID as that ID. Here the ID will become node ID equal to new plus ID count. So if we are adding one node, the ID will become new 0. Then if you are adding another node, it will become new 1, then new 2, new 3, like that. If you want to add more and more elements, its name will be changing like this. Not name, its ID will be changing from new 0, new 1, new 2, new 3, like that. Hope it is clear. So these are the functions which are used for DOM tree traversal. Now we need to discuss about how can you execute this. So upon executing this particular file, this HTML file, you can see this thing. That is, here you can see one big heading, then small heading is there, then para 1 is there, para 2 is there, then para 3 is there. This para 3 contains one unordered list, all things we discussed about in the HTML page. Then after that, we will be having that section for inputting elements. These are the input elements. That is, there is a text box for putting the ID. Here its name is big heading, and there is a button corresponding to that for executing that particular command, for finding that ID. This get by ID button is used for finding the element. So if you want to find the element item 1, what we do is, here we just need to type item 1. Then we will be using get element by ID function for getting that ID. Here that switch to function, hope you remember that switch to function. That switch to function is actually here, it's switched from big heading to IT1. Here now IT1 is highlighted. That is the main functionality of that switch to button. Hope it is clear. Then if you want to insert something to this item 1, then you can see, you can click this item 1. Then automatically that new 0 will be inserted before this item 1. Hope it is clear. Then if you want to append something to item 2, so first we need to search that item 2 we need to search, then click this get element by ID, then item 2 will get highlighted. Then if you want to append child, then if you want to append child to this item 2, you need to click on that append child button. Hope it is clear. Then if you want to replace current with new one with something, replace current. Upon clicking replace current, it will get replaced with the new ID, new 2. That new one now becomes new 2. It is replaced with the new 2. Then if you want to replace it with Shijin, then you can type it here. Then it is replaced with that Shijin. That particular content will be added to that particular element. In that way we can replace that. Then if you want to remove something, remove current button is for removing something. Then if you want to remove but one particular element like item, here you can see item 3. If you want to remove this item 3, first we need to search that item 3 by using get element by id. Then item 3 get element by id, item 3 will get highlighted. Then we need to remove that by using remove button. Then that remove button will get that item will get removed. Okay, item 3 is removed now. Now what we do is, if you want to find the get parent function is for finding the parent of a particular element. Now I need to find the parent of item 1. So first thing is I need to find that item 1. Then I need to click on get parent. So its parent is para 3. That's why it selected all the contents. So para 3 is the parent of this item 3. Okay, hope it is clear. This is the explanation of this code. So you please learn this particular code. I will be sharing this in our class group. Okay.